Zhao Hao burst into tears and choked up. Why don't you do it yourself when you persuade me so? I know, when Aunt Lena was sick, you gave all the money you could find to Aunt Lena, but at that time, why didn't you want to let yourself live better first? Charlie said awkwardly, we are in different situations after all. I am married, but you are not. After speaking, Charlie took Claire's hand and said to Zhao Hao, all Orus Hill knows that I am a famous soft rice king. I eat my wife's, drink my wife's, and use my wife's money for everything. I live with my wife and have such a good wife. I don't need to spend a penny, and I can eat and wear warmth. In this case, it's useless to ask for money. Claire was suddenly held by Charlie, and suddenly some deer bumped into her. After listening to what Charlie said, she was extremely moved. She felt that at this moment, she had a little more understanding of her husband. But at the same time, she also felt that at this moment, she was a little stranger to her husband. Once upon a time, she thought that her husband was hopeless and ambitious, just a useless person who didn't dare to fight back after being scolded and beaten. But now, she felt that her husband seemed to be far more profound than the one she imagined. When Zhao Hao saw Charlie holding Claire's hand, he showed his affection, and he felt gratified for his good brother. So he hurriedly poured another glass of wine and said, come on, Charlie, good brother, I will toast you to a glass. I wish you better and better relationship, and hope you give birth to an early son. Claire blushed all of a sudden, and she felt ashamed when he talked about having an early son. Charlie said with a smile on his face, thank you brother, I will work hard. Claire was even more shy. She held one hand, put the other hand under the table, and pinched hard on the inside of his thigh. Charlie grinned in pain, but didn't dare to scream, so he hurriedly picked up the wineglass and said to Zhao Hao, come on, do it. After a glass of wine, Charlie suddenly remembered that Zhao Hao was working in Haicheng, and asked, by the way, Zhao Hao, which company in Haicheng do you work for now? What industry is it? What is your position? Zhao Hao explained, I work in a company specializing in the production of lighting equipment in Haicheng. The main position is a salesperson. Our company is under the Tailai Group. Tailai Group? Charlie frowned and asked, the boss of the Tailai Group should be Tailai, the richest man in Haicheng, right? Zhao Hao nodded and said with a smile, you also know Tailai. Charlie smiled and said, more than knowing, I have seen him. Really? Zhao Hao said in surprise, I usually miss the end of the dragon. Only the people from the group headquarters have the opportunity to see him. People from small zonal ones like us have no chance to see him. Chairman Tailai. In Haicheng, Tailai was basically a native emperor, and he had many companies and industries. The lighting equipment company where Zhao Hao works is actually just a small industry under Tailai. Let alone Zhao Hao. Even the person in charge of their lighting equipment company did not have the opportunity to see Tailai several times. Therefore, Zhao Hao felt very shocked and curious about Charlie's meeting with Tailai. So he asked, Charlie, how did you meet our chairman? Charlie smiled and said, a friend had a party before, and I went to attend it. I happened to see him and he was there. The first time Charlie saw Tailai, Warnya invited him to look at a piece of jade. At that time, Tailai also had ideas about the piece of jade, and even brought a master to give him a long eye. As a result, the scam was seen through by him. Later, in Orus Hill, Tailai also went. Although he had no friendship with him, he had always treated him respectfully. After all, he is the supreme Nongguang Supreme in the eyes of those metaphysical circles. Since Zhao Hao works in a company under Tailai, he still has to help him if he can. So Charlie said to Zhao Hao, well, let me call Tailai and let him arrange a new job for you. What? Do you know Chairman? Zhao Hao looked at Charlie in shock. He thought that Charlie had just a chance to meet Chairman Tailai at a party, but 80% of them had no chance to cultivate friendship with the chairman. It's not that he despises his brothers. The key is that chairman's status is noble. After all, he is the richest man in Haicheng. In his eyes, he is really unattainable. Others couldn't help being shocked when they heard Charlie's words. Everyone has heard of Tailai, the richest man in Haicheng. Although he is not as powerful as the Song family, he is at least a super rich man worth several tens of billions. Unexpectedly, Charlie would know such a big man. If it were placed half an hour ago, everyone would think Charlie was bragging. But now, everyone felt that since Charlie said so, then this matter is likely to be true. Charlie smiled indifferently at this time and said to Zhao Hao, although I don't have much friendship with him, Chairman Tai Lai is an acquaintances after all. I believe he will give me a bit of face after all. Having said that, he immediately took out his cell phone, found Tai Lai's number, and called him directly. After a while, the call was connected. Tai Lai on the other end of the phone said in surprise, Mr. Wade, why are you free to call me? Charlie smiled lightly and said, Chairman, you and I haven't seen each other for some time. Tai Lai hurriedly said, oh, I haven't been to Orus Hill during this time. Otherwise, I must say hello to Mr. Wade. Charlie smiled slightly and said, Chairman don't need to be so polite. Actually, I called today for something. I want to ask you. A table of people held their breath and looked at Charlie, looking forward to witnessing the miracle moment. Because almost everyone is an orphan, let alone a richest man with a worth of tens of billions, even an ordinary rich man with a worth of more than 10 million will have no chance to meet.